Well, my goal is to make you wealthier, and today we're going to talk through the number one thing that you need to do in order to develop not only your database, but actually get clients out of it. You see, we would love to have the opportunity to just sit behind a desk and maybe take some incoming phone calls, and all of a sudden we start showing people who are ready to buy, sell, and invest in real estate within the first 60 days. They have no agent and they're pre-approved. I would love that. In fact, can you believe this? 90% of the realtors out there are just waiting for this. How do I know this? Today, I'm gonna show you studies, not that I have personally completed. This is from MIT. We're gonna look at some studies from Zillow themselves and how they've interacted with literally millions of real estate agents across the country. And here's the reality. We have an expectation that we need to completely reset and reframe as we get into the real estate business. I'll tell you a story. When I first started into real estate, I remember walking down a street. I walked into this real estate office. I saw a broker there and he was well polished and dressed in a three-piece suit. He talked like it was like honey coming from his lips. Everything was perfectly said. I looked around at this gorgeous office that was in the prime location. I saw a luxury brand that surrounded him. And I thought to myself, this is where I want to sell real estate. After a while, we had discussed a little bit about what it would be like to work there. And I had this expectation in my mind that as I saw so many people walking down the street, that they were going to look at this luxury brand, they were going to walk in and they were going to shake my hand and say, would you sell me a luxury house? I thought that that was going to be the case. And I was already calculating in my head the commission dollars in order to change my family's life. Well, let me fast forward and get to the punchline here. As I got into it, it was nothing like that. I realized that it was still my own experience, my own sphere of influence, my own lead follow-up, my own leads that were coming from online realty portals. Those were the ones that I was truly following up with. It wasn't exactly the brand that was bringing me anything. It was my own efforts. It is your own efforts that will drive and give you that path to success. And today we're going to talk about lead follow up, lead nurture, this idea that someone has reached out to us, described what they would like in real estate, but they're not ready to buy just yet. And for whatever reason, real estate agents get into the business and they think to themselves, ready and willing buyers are going to walk into your office, call in your cell phone and say, I'd love to buy a house. But let me ask you, when you go into a retail store, many times you're walking in and sometimes you want to just immediately buy something and then you leave. But many times you're just browsing. You're not exactly ready. One of the most typical examples of this is going into an electronics store. You walk into the back and you see all of those televisions that are lined up in the back. You're looking at the clarity of each of the photos and you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's kind of cool. I'd maybe like that. You're not ready to buy a television today, but you might be in a few months or even a few years. Are you a buyer? Maybe. You're actually what we would call a nurture. You're a prospect. You're not ready to buy today, but you will buy someday. I often ask people, how many of you live in homes? When I talk for trainings, everyone's hand raises. Well, we all live in homes. And how many of you recently moved in the past 5 years? And everyone raises their hand. But I don't have a crystal ball, but in the next 5 years, maybe half of the room is gonna move again. And the reality is that in America, we move now every 7 to 10 years. And so every single person out there is a buyer. They're just not yet a buyer. And so I really want to start this class by just kind of reframing for you that every single person or every that you talk to, first of all, is a human being, and we need to get to know them and understand them because people are going to do business with who they know, they like, and they trust. And our process to develop them into an actual buyer and get them to that place is only going to truly happen when we fully understand them and they feel that empathy from us, that an understanding that they are known, that they can trust you, and that you're going to deliver to them an actual great experience. So as we get into this, we're going to focus on that a little bit. And then we're also going to focus on the fact that every single lead is either transact now or transact later. It might take someone 30 days in order to transact. Man, I would love if I could deliver for you every single buyer that's out there, but I personally can't, but you can. You can actually take a database of 200 people, and through the processes that we're going to show you today of following up, you can actually provide and deliver value to people that will cause them to move along almost in this spectrum, in this process here towards a ready buyer, towards being ready to sign with you and become your client. And so this process here, we really need to start our class today by reframing our mindset and expectation. About 4% of the buyers out there are ready buyers. How do we know this? It's actually the conversion ratios that are happening nationwide for real estate agents. Many of these real estate agents, they go onto online realty portals and they're hoping to do what? To align their personal expectations with a sales pitch that a realty portal sets. And I'm gonna speak very candidly in this class because you've paid for it. A realty portal is designed to provide leads. These are people who have raised their hand and said, I'm interested in real estate, but their interest levels are going to vary. There are some who are gonna say, I'm interested, I'd like a little bit more information, but as soon as you reach out to them, they're gonna say, you know what, I clicked the wrong button. What did that really mean? Well, I'm just not ready to talk to somebody yet. It's like when you walk into a retail store and someone says to you, hi, can I help you? And you immediately respond, I'm just browsing. That's all that is. It's them speaking to you without the clarity of these words. I'm not transact now, I'm transact later. I'm not transact now, I'm not ready to buy today, but I'm transact later. Or it is, you have not developed the trust with me yet for me to truly divulge what I'm looking for and what I'm interested in so that you can take me to that next step, right? We're not sure, are you the right person in order to help me? And why is that? It's because real estate agents have done a great job at getting licensed with what? Some vocabulary that you learn from the state, and the state checked the box as to what you should know. You know about lead-based paint laws, but you're really not sure on how to lead nurture. You're really not sure on how to provide value, and you're really not sure about how to say things, when to say things, or even what to say. And so today we're going to be going over that in the class. So let's start with this. If I was to show you about some lead nurture statistics from MIT, do you think you would listen? It's not just from me. These are from some of the brightest minds. And what they did was they conducted a study years ago just about when is the best time to follow up with a lead. And when is the best time to, or how many times should you follow up with a lead in order for them to really respond back to you? And the stats are fantastic. And what we can do is kind of extrapolate some of this data to find for ourselves, what do the best real estate agents do out there? You know, we've often spoken with Zillow, and we've spoken with some of the top coaches in the country about this, coach some of the top 1% of real estate agents. And as you're seeking to be one of those agents, here's some of the stats. The average agent follows up 4 times with their lead, if that. They reach out perhaps on the first day and they're hoping that they're gonna align their they're gonna see, can I take the client and align them with my expectations? Let me say that again. They're hoping to take the client and align them with the expectations of, are you ready to buy now? Are you transact now? And when the client does not, or excuse me, the prospect does not immediately return the call, they think to themselves, well, maybe they're not a really good lead. Maybe they just clicked the wrong button, and they'll try again maybe a little bit later in the day. Maybe I missed them. The following day, they try one more time and they think to themselves, you know what? This is not a buyer who we should follow up with. And then maybe they get hungry one day and they think to themselves, I'll follow up a little bit later in the future. And what ends up happening? They don't get a call back. And they think to themselves, the leads are bad. But if you remember that old sales movie, Glengarry Glen Ross, they say this, no man walks on the lot unless he wants to buy. And that's true. That's the reality. People who are on online realty portals, they say, oh, you know what? I clicked the wrong button, or I didn't mean to do that. Well, no one out there literally slipped and opened Zillow and happened to type their personal information in and then found a property that they like and clicked contact agent and said, oh my goodness, I pressed the wrong button. That's not real. It's just they're trying to tell you through an inarticulate way, I'm not ready to buy yet. And also I don't know who you are, and I'm not ready to tell you exactly what's going on in my world. So how can we change this? How can we start to provide value for people? And how many times should we follow up? Well, let's first, again, like we're setting the stage and reframing our expectations with it, let's come from the consumer's mindset right now. What's the consumer feeling? Well, in the late 90s, we were introduced to a company called Amazon, and they started out selling books online. And soon they became one of the largest companies in America and the world. But one of the things that they changed for the real estate industry is they actually, without even being in real estate, they changed our industry because they changed the mindset of the consumer in that we were used to items that we would purchase online taking a week, if not more, in order to get to us. But soon we realized, wow, we really like 2-day shipping. And then it got even better with 1-day shipping. And now for Prime members, you can possibly order an item in the morning and get it by this afternoon. And so as we look into real estate and as we go onto the online realty portals, the consumer who's been online so much, and much of the world has been changed online for looking at products, they're now applying those same principles into the actual process of purchasing real estate. Let me say that again. They're taking their previous experience of what they do all of the time in purchasing retail products, and they're applying that to their process for purchasing real estate. You can now go online and actually purchase a car and look all around inside of it and buy the car online, and they'll deliver it to your home. You can go online and you can look for products from all over the world and look at all of these reviews before ever actually touching the product. And then they'll send it to your door. In fact, many times they'll send you packages to your door, and if you don't like it, they'll send it back. This is the experience of the consumer in America. And we wonder, and we're still expecting in the real estate industry because we're so slow to adapt and innovate. The consumer will respond any differently when they come into our space. We're expecting them to come into our office, get ready, sit down at our conference room tables. Let's describe how great I am and the amazing company that I work for. And I need you to follow my process. Although you don't even know me, I need you to follow my process so that you can purchase a house where I think you should purchase a house with a lender who I think you should purchase. Do you see where I'm going? How silly this actually sounds. It's only silly when we reframe our ideas about what the consumer is thinking. Here's what the consumer wants. I want my information, and I want to know that who I am working with has the capacity and understanding to accomplish the task at hand, and I need to know that they care about my process. That's it. That's what they want. They need care and understanding. They need competency. And if not more, they need an excellent experience. And so that's what we're looking to deliver. So how do we do that? Especially when we're talking from all of these different categories. We've talked about the big 6 ways that you can develop your business, whether that's sphere of influence or online leads, which we're talking about quite a lot right now. We're talking about business to business. We're talking about neighborhood farming, niche groups, and for sale by owner expireds. If we're following up with all those, well, each one of those actually requires a different method in order to follow up, meaning they need a different message to match their particular market. I'll say that in a different way. Each different market that's out there or segment of where you would find the leads needs a different way in order to follow up with them. Online leads, for example, what we've been talking about so often, many of the best teams in America, which I'm seeing nationally, their best operations are following up somewhere around 4 times if they're very average. We're seeing 8 times if they're good. And actually the top teams that we're seeing in America are following up with their leads. These are called touches towards the lead around 20 times. And the reason for that is this. We have such a culture that is inundated with information. You're constantly being advertised to all day long. And it's the persistence of that advertising that breaks through the busyness into attention. Said another way, if I speak to you enough in a message that matches where you're at, eventually I will command your attention. And that's what we actually want to do. Let's once again get into the experience of the consumer. They've gone online to a realty portal, they're clicking on something, and that realty portal is looking to make as much money as possible. So if they sell the lead to one individual, they're hoping that that one individual give them a good experience. But in actuality, what they've realized over the years is that most real estate agents don't even follow up with their leads at all. And so if that's the case, well, why don't we put it out to as many real estate agents as we can? Maybe 2, 3, 4, if not more. Because we're betting, this is the realty portal speaking, we're betting that one of those realtors is going to follow up with them. And that we're hoping that one of those realtors is actually good and is going to continue to follow up with them. They're going to bring that persistence combined with consistence into the same picture. And they're going to continue to follow up with them and hopefully provide a great experience. Well, why do they care about that? Why are they sending it to these multiple realtors? Well, number one, it's because they actually want the consumer to be followed up with. And number two, if they don't get followed up with, the consumer starts to say, you know what, I don't want a Zillow anymore. I don't want to visit Realtor.com. I don't want to visit Homes.com. Why? Because if I go there, although I might like the experience, the user experience in their portal, once I click agent, I really don't actually get any information. And that's been the sentiment that they found so often in the real estate business. If you sign up for a realty portal like this, you'll often find that the calls are recorded. You'll often find that the Zillow representatives are going to call you and ask for customer satisfaction scores. They're going to grade you on how you're doing with following up with your leads. They're going to look at your lead nurture process because they know they're not worried about generating the leads. They have millions and millions of eyeballs every single day. You're worried about it, but the most important part, what is missed in this entire industry, And where all of the money is made in that database is found in the lead follow-up. So let's talk about how we can follow up with these leads. The first thing that you need to understand is this: everyone is busy. If you were to look at my cell phone, there's probably a couple of unread voicemails that I've left unread. You know what? I got to get back to them. They could be family members. There could be somebody who's looking to connect with it for another business opportunity with me. It's not that I don't want to follow up with them. It's just I'm simply busy, and you are as well. You've taken the time to watch these classes, but I'm pretty much guaranteeing that inside of your inbox are unread emails, or there's still a task to do in your home, or you've got something, or your kids are asking you for their attention and your attention. Everyone is screaming for everyone's attention. And so the reality is that we give attention to things that we are ready to care about and that need to be cared about. There needs to be a pain there, and there needs to be a pleasure in that item as well. And so for this, what is we need to find out for ourselves, are we afraid of understanding that truth that everyone is busy? Why do we care about this? Let me give you a couple of objections that real estate agents face every single day. They face the reality of, I don't want to be rejected. They have a fear of it. It's one of the hardest things in real estate sales. In fact, if we did not have that as realtors, I'm telling you, you would all sell hundreds of homes a year. But the reality is, you fear being rejected. But the question is as to why. If it's a question of, I don't know what to say and how to say it and when to say it, well, I can help you solve that problem. But if the question is simply, I just don't like people telling me no or rejecting me and what I'm offering for sale, then you fail to realize that people are at a transact now or transact later. Someone can tell you no today, but eventually they will say yes. They will need the product because everyone needs housing. So in this regards, it's highly important to first understand that. It is not you that they are rejecting. It's just that they're not ready to purchase yet. So that brings us to our second point. We don't want to be salesy. Every real estate agent tells me this. I don't want to come off salesy. Let me give you a definition on what salesy is. Salesy is when you're asking someone to purchase a service or a product from you that they do not actually want or need. They don't want or need it, but you're looking to convince or even manipulate them into doing something. We'd never encourage that. In fact, they love to buy, but they hate to be sold. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna reframe our mindset that it's something that this consumer actually does want. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on a realty portal. They wouldn't have reached out to you from your sphere of influence. It wouldn't be something that a consumer has, reached out to you from a niche group or a business to business or the expired listing that's out there. They wouldn't have listed their home anyways in the first place. And so if that's the case, then we need to realize this individual actually does want to list their home, or they do want to buy a property. They're just not yet ready to reach out to you in some sort of capacity, or they've got some questions that are involved. So what can we start to do? Let's talk about what we can do to nurture these leads. Hey, if that was a helpful video, keep watching for more content that I produce every single week about how to accelerate your career as a real estate agent or how to grow a profitable real estate team.